Hello, and this is the Apocalypse Will Be podcasted. We are a married couple from Atlanta with boring day jobs. We have been together 12 years, and we usually create a lot of weird performance art to entertain people. But we are trying our hand at having a podcast because we have had an obsession lately, and that obsession is Dungeon Crawler Carl. This is a spoilers podcast, and we will be discussing plot points from all 7 Dungeon Crawler Carl books. You should not start this podcast until you have finished book 7. We will not be discussing anything from Patreon or the Pineapple Cabaret. There are spoilers from this point forward. Be warned. Hello, and today we are talking about Chapter 2 of This Inevitable Ruin, and this is going to be the 6th episode of the podcast for us. And I'm really excited about this episode because this chapter is a pretty typical Mordecai, Donut, and Carl are in the safe room going over their new achievements and their loot boxes. And I think it has a lot of great stuff that I'm excited to talk about today.
I know I'm really, really happy to be doing this episode today, especially because we get to hear some of the fantastic descriptions of achievements from the system AI.
Yeah, we got some unhinged shit happening today, so let's get
We
into it.
we really do. So we're gonna be starting out with some sass from Princess Donut.
You know, I hate tassels, Carl.
She absolutely does hate tassels. We didn't know this before, but it totally tracks for Donut.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I know I promised I wouldn't try to do voices until we had a more established fan base, but I cannot help myself.
Yeah, it's just gonna happen. No, I love that with the ghillie suit. She says that it looks like one of Signet's tattoo people fell into a paper shredder.
That's amazing.
It is, but the ghillie suit is a really, really powerful item that does a lot later on in the book, even though it probably does make her look really ridiculous.
She does have a legitimately upsetting amount of items now.
She does. I kind of want to see a rendering of what she looks like with all of her gear on, maybe minus the ghillie suit, because that would cover everything up. Like the crupper, the cloak, hat, tiara, glasses, everything.
I don't know. I have had a lot of fun imagining my cats wearing ghillie suits, though. I think it would be very cute.
It would be. So she gets that ghillie suit, which adds a lot of strength to her spells. She also gets the boonie hat, which she doesn't like beige color items as a rule, but what does she want?
Extra floppy.
Extra floppy is very good.
She literally says, I do like floppy, which I enjoyed a lot.
Just a great sentence. The ghillie suit that she gets does take up a jacket slot, and it allows her to blend into the background and gives her the cone of silence benefit, so it just makes her a lot stealthier. The boonie hat gives her a targeting skill where she can zoom in and examine mobs from super far away. It gives her increased range on her spells more than they already were buffed. And then what? If she combines the ghillie suit and the hat, what happens then?
Yeah, it buffs the skills even more. And it is interesting just because the way that some of these items are slotted, I wouldn't have expected.
Mm-hmm.
So she can just kind of keep adding stuff on. And I mean, it's also just funny because the way that cat's anatomy is different than human anatomy, where all this stuff is actually going on her back.
Pretty much, yeah. It's all just kind of sitting on her back. Thank God she's really strong, otherwise it might weigh her down. So with all these added range and everything to her spells, Carl makes the comment that she'd be able to snipe line of sight enemies from a mile away, which is kind of terrifying, but he knows that the enemies also have access to this kind of, enhanced weaponry.
They do, and that's important to keep in mind is that whatever they have is kind of scraps compared to what some of the hunters have.
I mean, I think overall, the crawlers in a lot of ways are a lot more powerful than a lot of the warlords and enemies that they're facing. Just, usually in other seasons of faction wars, the crawlers are just so outnumbered that even if they are really powerful individually, they don't have the combined strength as far as like numbers go.
It's a huge benefit that they can work together as a team towards a common goal as opposed to in most seasons. I just don't see, besides maybe personally leveling up or this, promise of maybe you can get a job somewhere where crawlers would be super motivated to be really successful in the fraction wars.
They also get Kwan's cloak from the end of the Eye of the Bedlam Bride, and they decide that Donut is going to wear that because it's going to be better for her and her kind of spell set that she has. That is going to be gone over in a lot more detail in the next chapter. They just kind of say that that's what's going to happen with the cloak. They also give some background information into what the cloak was like when Kwan had it. The other great thing that she gets in this chapter is the flak anti-air spell. And when we were first going through this, we were like, does she ever end up using that spell? Like, I kind of feel like it's just mentioned here and then never comes up again. But she does actually use it. It's just kind of more of a passive thing. When she's in the tower, she does kind of just have it activated and it ends up diverting a lot of the fire that's coming her way.
Yeah, I was the same thing with the invisibility. When I was reading it, I wasn't sure if she ever used it, but once I looked it up, she definitely does.
Yeah, some of these things are just kind of passive spells to an extent that aren't playing like a super active role, but they are being used and utilized.
Well, I also think when you're reading, you're not like, she can be invisible. When is she going to go invisible? Like, it's not something that just, is like super exciting. Like, oh, right. I've been waiting for her to use that since chapter 2. You know what I mean?
Oh my god, the flak spell, it's happening.
It's happening.
It's finally happening.
No, I think the only spell that I was like, okay, and like really waiting for them to use was the Run Gunter Run, which we are going to talk about so much
Oh my
later on.
god, Gunter, little Gunter. Also, Wall of Fire. Something I want to talk about here is the kind of concept of power creep, which happens in a lot of MMOs and video games that have been along for a very long time, where they add more and more powerful items to kind of keep the game interesting as it goes on longer. And at a certain point, it can kind of make things too easy. That's not necessarily what's going to happen in the dungeon because the floors do get harder and harder and harder as they go on. But like with the invisibility spell that Donut gets here, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Whereas, went back when she got hover, it was like, oh my God, look guys, I can hover now. You want to see me hover? I'm going to do it over here. I'm going to do it over there. And at this point, they're just becoming so powerful that even when they get some like really, really insanely powerful items, it's just kind of like, oh, cool, that's going to be helpful.
I think they also have some trauma response of there's so many other things going on and they've seen so many horrible things lately. And like Carl is saying at the beginning of the chapter, they're just so happy that the pulling up into the sky maneuvers worked at the end of the episode that I just don't think they have the brain space to be excited about a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a component of it as well.
Before we go into this section, we want to be clear that we love Canadians.
Absolutely.
We go to hostels internationally a lot, and we love meeting up with Canadians and going on adventures with them. It's one of our favorite pastimes.
With that said, when we find out that Mordecai is Canadian and Donut and Carl lose their mind over this and just crack up laughing at him, the description that the AI gives of Mordecai is pretty funny.
I think that it wouldn't have been nearly so bad if they had not given him a raccoon skin cap.
Definitely. So it gives the long description about him, talking about how if they say a boot, they will be really offended if you call them out on it.
Which I do have a funny story about that. So I used to work in a call center that was only for the US, but sometimes we would accidentally get Canadians transferred over. And I did know if I was talking to a Canadian, if they said a boot. And we would just be talking and they're like, "Hi, I'm calling about my credit card processing machine." And I'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I think you actually need to get transferred to the Canadian line." And they'd be like, "Well, how'd you know?" And I'd be like, You said a boot."
Or that if they were really, really, really nice compared to all the other people that would call into the center, that was another giveaway for you.
Yeah, but that would make me suspect it. And like maybe I'd ask. I wouldn't just assume that the super nice people were from Canada. Sometimes they were also from Minnesota.
Minnesota as well. So his relative was trampled to death by a moose, and Brie also has a great story about that.
I do have a story about that where I actually have a cousin who was killed by a cow, and I am very much the city cousin in my family. But I joke around sometimes that my family is I have a cousin who got killed by a cow type of country.
Absolutely. All right, so Mordecai is obsessed with potions, and he has the new upgrade where he can actually examine potions and see how they're made, which is a great skill for him to have. Like, this is going to help them out so much.
Yeah, he geeks out over it really hard and is like, "I'll be right back. I have to go look at this right now."
Basically, the equivalent of I'll be in my bunk.
It was a very "I'll be in my bunk" moment.
Absolutely.
There's a glitter potion now.
They talk about, again, the different ways that the ceasefire can end. They give a couple of other scenarios that are on top of what Cascadia announces in chapter 1. And this is, I think, just more foreshadowing, waving a big flag around.
Yeah, they are definitely hammering this point home.
Absolutely. We find out that poor Mongo, his wing is still missing and he is hurt. He's going around waving his one good wing, and I think he's taking it really well.
He's
Uh,
taking it better than Carl is.
and better than Donut is. He seems to not mind too much, but they're going to give him a potion that's going to heal that. And they mention that there is a heal severe injury potion that they get. And Mordecai's like, yeah, normally you need 33 fine healing potions to make this. And Carl says that when he was in the She Maria state, that he just kind of combined 3 together. And he's going to look and see if he can find out how he did that. I'm not sure that he does. Like, does that, I don't know if that comes back up later.
No, he was too busy to read his notifications, so I think it's fair to say that he's too busy to look into the potions recipes.
Right. They mention again that it seems like Mordecai might like potions more than them.
Oh, no.
Oh no.
They also say that they got too many boxes and too much stuff to list it all out, which I think is for the best.
But there are some really awesome achievements, and we want to go through pretty much all of them. The first one that was quite amusing to me was the stretching achievement for Carl putting a bunch of stuff into Samantha's nussie.
That was quite a voice you did there. Okay, new achievement, Lord of the Flies, which I will be the first to admit I have not read Lord of the Flies since high school, and I don't really have any burning desire to ever read it again. But the AI says social structures are breaking down. People are starting to fight. The next thing you know, someone is going to nickname you Piggy and brain you to death with a rock. And this is because of the trap Carl set for another player to teleport away from the capital.
The box that Carl gets for this is the I have the conch box, and I think that might be a reference to a SpongeBob episode where they have a magic conch and they're basically saying, I have the magic conch, I have the magic conch. I don't know if that's a reference.
No, 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 it's from Lord of the Flies.
Oh,
I think they get the conch in the Lord of the Flies, and that makes them like the ruler of the island. So
well, maybe that's what the SpongeBob episode is referencing then, which if so, it's interesting.
I just think that SpongeBob is not as deep as people think it is. I'm sorry. That's my hot take as a millennial.
Boo.
I know.
The next achievement that Carl gets is the demons hate this one trick, which happened from teleporting all of the demons from the beach. And the fantastic award that he gets is the option for all of his food boxes to have the pea soup upgraded to them.
Which
This
that is an Exorcist reference.
The food box upgrades. He's going to get a couple more of these. He gets one more in this chapter and then another one later in the series. We find out that these food box upgrade options are not actually optional. And by the end of the book, the food that's coming out is terrible, just absolutely terrible. But he has to eat the food from his food box because it gives him buffs.
It's so gross that Katia uses it to be fake intestines, I believe.
So we've got a chicken shit exploit, and this has a fantastic description where they talk about that guy at Dungeons and Dragons who is pedantic about all of the rules. I just love the end. And he's like, well, this guy is not you. That guy hates you. If you were a product, he'd be giving you a nerd rage induced 1-star review right now. And the image that I have in my head is the gamer guy from the World of Warcraft episode of South Park. He gets this achievement for breaking a very carefully built game system.
So the AI says, I cast some doubt on that description.
Yeah, the entire game system of the 8th floor is very confusing and maybe has some inconsistencies.
I wouldn't say it's very confusing. I would just say that the AI is definitely not meticulously crafting things. And I think even the AI knows that. So this is a little bit bullshit. And
But the AI is not the one who designed the floor. Someone else designed it.
Someone else does design the floor, but the AI makes the rules, and the rules are definitely not as carefully crafted as the AI is implying here. The AI is an unreliable narrator.
He is. He claims to be a stickler for the rules, but also likes to bend the rules so that they're entertaining.
It's actually, I think, what the AI likes about Carl.
All right, he does, because Carl is a very entertaining person and likes to break things. The loot box that he gets from this is the Surrendalgore box, which is just kind of a dick move. And that chapter made me cry quite a lot. I was sobbing.
Sobbing in the middle of a camping festival with a lot of people watching while you were listening to it in the car.
Fine. It's fine. The next achievement he gets is for picking up celestial loot off the ground. He gets a punch card with one punch, and he gets something cool when he does it 4 more times. I really want to know what that is. Bree, what's the next point?
I will say, as someone who owns several rescue cats, that this unhinged rant by the AI is the most upsetting things in the book, and I am not engaging with or discussing.
That is totally fair. There are a couple of things that I want to discuss from it without getting into like what he was actually saying. So he mentions he's like, I really need to stop watching these memory recordings. And it's interesting to think about, that he's got this spare time to go and just like look at random memory recordings, which is interesting, but like he can do a million different things at once. So that kind of makes sense. He also makes the comment that his feelings on this matter are very confusing, especially when said pets are fucking delicious or squishable. Is the AI eating pets? We do know that he likes to give Carl things to squish, though. And Carl is like, normally the AI has some kind of coherent point, even when he's just kind of rambling and being crazy. And this one just kind of didn't go anywhere, but Carl knows to not comment on that out loud.
Yeah, but he says it's extra unhinged.
It is. And where my mind goes right now is I kind of want to know what are the achievement and descriptions that other crawlers are getting like? Are they on this kind of same level of unhinged as what Carl gets? Or is he getting these special descriptions and announcements and stuff because the AI is so obsessed with him?
Agreed. I would love to hear other people's. I would love to hear Ellie's. I would love to hear Donuts. I would love to hear Imani's, but unfortunately, we haven't gotten that yet.
Yeah, and like Donut will sometimes be like, well, I just got a very rude achievement, but I want to know what it actually says.
Yeah, definitely. Interestingly, there was also a warning about sentient weapons, and that will come back later.
It is. They mentioned that there's only 2 crawlers in the top 50 that use sentient weapons. It's hypothesized by Mordecai that Florin's shotgun might be sentient, and this will definitely come up later in the books, I'm sure. And maybe that's going to be explored in the graphic novel that's coming out about Florin.
Yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, very excited. We ordered it. It's going to be getting here soon.
In maybe about 2 years. Actually, I think we are expected to receive that in about 2 years.
Oh, I see.
Don't worry, we will cover it when we get there.
Absolutely. This is going to go on for 10, 15, maybe 20 years, I would expect.
Oh gosh, that's a lot. But we do have new books and TV shows coming, which I do want to say we do have a date now for book 8. Unless we start doing several chapters of book 7 at once, we are not going to be done with 7 by the time that we reach 8. But we will either switch over to recording episodes on book 8, or we will be doing chapters on book 7 and 8 simultaneously. Let's see how good we get at podcasting.
Yeah, and with the existing content throughout all the books, we did the math and there's about 6 years of content doing 1 chapter per week. So this can just kind of keep going and going.
So Carl gets his celestial box here, and the achievement is for touched by a demon, and it's because he's the only person who has ever been touched by a prince of Sheol and lived to tell the tale.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how many things happen in these book series for the first time in the entire history of Faction Wars, which is just kind of crazy to fathom because Faction Wars has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. The next achievement he gets is Crab Chowder. You jerked off a crab. You need therapy. And Carl's just like, what the fuck? I didn't do that. And this is yet another food box upgrade he gets for all of his food to come out chowder style. And all of these food box upgrades end up not being optional,
Not being upgrades.
not being upgrades at all. I do absolutely love this achievement because all of the hardback books underneath the paper cover have special little messages on them. And when I was going through reading all of them, I opened it up for Eye of the Bedlam Bride and it just says, I need a baby seal. I started just laughing uncontrollably for a couple minutes. And there's also some great merch available that Brie got me.
Yeah, so because of that, I did get you the I Need a Baby Seal shirt, which has a adorable little seal on it. And I just want to plug, you should buy the Penguin books and you should also get some official merch.
I love wearing that shirt around because it just has this little cute baby seal on it. And I love the idea of people being like, oh, yeah, baby seals are so cute. And I'm like, mwahaha, you do not know the meaning of this shirt.
And so far, no one's questioned you.
So far, nobody has commented on it, which is upsetting. Comment on my shirt.
Okay, so on to the unbirthing achievement.
You want to talk about it or you want me to talk about it?
I think you should talk about it.
Okay, so he gets the unbirthing achievement for teleporting into Samantha's neck hole. And I'm not going to talk about the unbirthing that the AI mentions. Don't Google it. But the AI is like, I really like that. You are in fucking trouble. And that gives a lot of concern. Carl's not really happy to hear that. And I am I don't know if I'd say I'm looking forward to, but I'm curious to see how that's going to come back around to bite Carl in the ass later.
I am sympathetic to Carl's sentiments.
Yeah, poor Carl. Poor Carl being plagued by the dungeons, fetishes, and kinks. Anyhow, what's going on with the Emberus quest?
So Emberus gives Carl the quest of finding out who killed his son. And this is a fun quest. And I look forward to talking about how it plays out.
Yeah, so Carl's told that he needs to go into Club Vanquisher and talk to the High Cleric to break the truce so that Emberus can kill Amayon's three brothers. With this quest update, Carl is very relieved to know that he is not personally being tasked with killing Amayon's three brothers, but this quest does go very much so off the rails at the end of the book.
One of my favorite parts.
It is definitely kind of screws up their plans for how the floor is going to end. So this episode was a bit shorter than we thought it was going to be, but we look forward to having you join us next week where we learn all about Donut's awesome items she gets in her loot boxes. And that episode is about twice the length of this one. Have a good one. New achievement. You've listened to another episode of The Apocalypse Will Be Podcasted. We release new episodes every Sunday. Visit us on our website to find all our podcast platforms, rss.com/podcasts/The Apocalypse Will Be Podcasted, or follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, the iHeartRadio app, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on Facebook at The Apocalypse Will Be Podcasted, and on Instagram at Apocalypse Will Be Podcasted. Now, get out there and like, comment, and subscribe.